You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com, thechrisvossshow.com. Welcome to the big show, our family and friends, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Welcome to the Chris Voss Show. As always, for 15 years, 2 to 3 episodes a day, weekday, 10 to 15 episodes a week. We are bringing you just the most amazing minds, the most brilliant people, the people that will shape you, that will educate you and make you smarter in every way possible. And in the end, you'll just be sexier and hot, just like me, because everyone wants that. For 15 years, all the billionaires, CEOs, all that sort of great stuff, the newsmakers, the authors, we've had them on the show. And we've got another amazing gentleman on the show today. And without further ado, let's bring him in. We have Dr. Noah St. John on the show with us today. He's known as the father of affirmations, and this has been verified by Maury. He is the father, and the mental health coach to the stars. He is the author of 24 books, including his new book we'll be talking about today, The 7-Figure Expert: Your Ultimate Guide to a Life of More Impact, Influence, and Financial Freedom. Who doesn't want that? Are the people who are like, that's not my thing. I'm just going to stay here on the couch. You can get a free copy of his website. We'll be giving out the .com here in a second, so stay tuned. He works with Hollywood celebrities, 8-figure company CEOs, professional athletes. Noah is famous for helping people make more in just 12 weeks than they made in the last 12 months while winning their lives back. Welcome to the show, Dr. Noah. How are you?
I'm great. Great to be here. Thanks.
There you go. And do you want me to refer to you as Dr. Noah through the show?
I don't care. Noah, Dr. Noah, whatever you want.
There you go. Hey, I have one question, doctor. Does this look infected? No, I'm just kidding. That's my favorite doctor joke.
Love it.
That's my favorite doctor joke. Hey, so give us your .coms, please, so that people can find you on the interwebs in the sky.
Absolutely. So my main website is my name, Noah St. John, just like it sounds, NOAHSTJOHN, noahstjohn.com. The book we're talking about today, The 7-Figure Expert. This book is actually free. You can get this. You can pick this up for free at 7figureexpertbook.com. Very easy to remember. The number 7, 7figureexpertbook.com. We just ask you to cover the shipping, but I covered the cost of the book because you're watching us here today. So yeah, those would be the 2 great places to start.
Awesome sauce. So give us a 30,000 overview of what's inside the book.
Absolutely. So, I started my company, successclinic.com, in 1997, over 26 years ago, in a 300 square foot basement apartment with $800 to my name and a book on HTML. And since those very humble beginnings, we've helped our clients to add multiple 6 and 7 and even 8 figures to their business using my methods. And so my clients basically begged me to put everything that I've been teaching in a book. And so that's really what the book is about. It's about really how you can add multiple 6 or 7 figures, or even 8 if you choose, to your business while also winning your life back. And that phrase is very important. And the reason it is because, of course, there's a lot of the hustle and grinders out there, the hustle bros. And they're saying, if you're not working 18 hours a day, then you're a loser. If you're not working on Christmas Eve, then you're a failure. And I'm like, are you nuts? I mean, give me a break. I want a life. I don't know where you're at, buddy, but what good is $1 billion if you don't have a life? So anyway, that's what my 7-figure expert formula is all about. It's about, yes, making more money. Absolutely. But it's also about having a life.
There you go. And they can get it at 7figureexpertbook.com. So give us a bit of history, a hero's journey for you. You delved into a little bit, but what got you interested in motivating people, helping people, educating people, and all that sort of good stuff?
I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood. And I know that's a total cliche, but it's totally true. I grew up in this little town called Kennebunkport, Maine, which is one of the wealthiest communities in New England. But my family was dirt poor. And I mean that literally, because we lived at the bottom of a dirt road in a drafty, unfinished house that my parents ended up losing to foreclosure when I was just 15 years old.
Did
so
they lose
from a very young...
Huh? I had to do a Bush joke in there.
I know, right? Yes. Yeah, they still owe me money from that poker game.
Do they?
But anyway, So, from a very young age, I was painfully exposed to the gap, the chasm between the haves and the have-nots. The haves was everyone else in the community. The have-nots was my family. And so I hated being poor. I hated it because I saw that, right down the street, there's great wealth and abundance. Mm-hmm. So I did the only thing I could do. I mean, back then, of course, there was no internet. There was none of the things that we have today. So, but there was one thing that we had, and that was the library. And so I just went to the library and I read every book in the self-help section. I just immersed myself, all the classics. As you can see, I'm surrounded by books, now 24 of them are mine, but, other people too.
There you go.
But I've always loved books. And so I read every book in the self-help section. And, I really worked hard. I tried to make it work. But as hard as I tried, as hard as I worked, I just couldn't seem to get it to work, even after reading all those books. And so at the age of 25, I decided to take my own life. I decided to commit suicide at age 25 because I was so frustrated and, I didn't see a way out. And now at the very last moment, my life was spared, but I didn't know why. And so I said, well, I'm still here on this planet, but I don't even know why I'm here. I don't know what my purpose is here on the earth. So I got to figure that out. Otherwise, what is the point of anything? And so I went back to the library, but this time I went to the spiritual section and I read everything in the spiritual section. And, fast forward 5 years later in 1997, that's when I really had the epiphanies. And I realized that, the epiphanies that changed my life and have subsequently changed a lot of people's lives. But really, I realized what was actually missing in all those books that I'd spent all that time reading, immersing myself in. And I realized there were specific nuances and things that were missing that no one was talking about. And, I'm still the only person really talking about them. And of course, I've written 24 books on the subject. So really, that's how it all started. And, now, of course, I have coaching programs. We have one-on-one and group coaching. We have online courses. And of course, I'm a keynote speaker as well. I get to do keynote presentations, live and virtually all around the world. So it's really been quite a journey.
There you go. And you may have alluded to it, but how does this book different? There's a lot of, as you mentioned, self-help and different motivational things that are on the marketplace. How does this book and some of the topics you cover in it different?
One of the things that makes what I do different, and I call it my 7-figure expert formula, is it really comes from the inside out. Now, here's what I mean by that. One of the reasons that I've helped my clients add over $3 billion, meaning adding 6 and 7 and 8 figures to their business in record time while winning their lives back. One of the reasons we've been able to do that is because of my approach we call the 7-figure expert formula. Mm-hmm. Now, what I mean by the inside out approach is there's 2 aspects to any human endeavor, and that is the inner component and the outer component. We just like to call it inner game and outer game, right? So if you look at inner game and outer game, that really makes up everything that you do. But here's the problem is that most people spend a lot of time on one or the other. Mm-hmm. In other words, they're spending way too much time on the inner game and they're really not focused on their outer game. That's where you have what I call a highly evolved broke person. They're very evolved and they're very spiritually all this, but they're broke. They got no money.
There you go. I'm putting that on my business card. Highly evolved.
Exactly. And then on the flip side, you have the person that's really spent a lot of time mastering their outer game, but their inner game is not doing so well. A classic example of that would be Elvis Presley, right? Elvis Presley was, of course, the most, famous person on the planet when he died at the age of 42. Yeah. And so it's obvious. And, I've done lots of studies on famous people as well as, coaching them and so forth. But there are many, many celebrities, and I'm sure we can all think of them, John Belushi and Chris Farley, and the list goes on, of people who were rich and famous, had everything on the outer, but because no one had helped them with their inner game, sadly, they lost their lives, far too early. So that's just an example. But I think we can all think of somebody who, a person who maybe has hit a ceiling. I call it the income ceiling. Oh. In fact, I'll give a quick example of that. I was speaking at an event in Los Angeles for about 1,000 entrepreneurs, and there were, these are 7-8 figure earners, really high rolling people, right? And so I was just finished speaking. I was walking off the stage, and a man came up to me, and he said, "Noah, you are the coach I've been looking for. I want you to coach me." And now I didn't know this man from Adam. Ironically, his name was Adam. And so I said, "Okay, what's going on?" He said, "Noah, we're plateaued. We're stuck at 7 figures, my company." And, I'm like, well, that doesn't sound too bad. He goes, "Yeah, but we've been stuck here for 4 years. And I've hired everybody under the sun. I've hired all these marketing gurus, named all the names." And he said, "We're still hitting this plateau." And he said, "As soon as I heard you talk about inner game and outer game and everything you just talked about," he said, "I knew you were the coach I've been looking for." So he hired me on the spot. I coached him one-on-one for about 18 months. And in that 18 months, we were able to grow his company from being stuck, at the 4 million in revenues for the previous 4 years to over 20 million.
Wow.
Over 20 million in less than 18 months. And, people are amazed by that story. And what I tell them is, look, what makes that interesting is not only, of course, the 600% increase in record time, but more importantly, it was the fact that we worked 95% on his inner game, what's between your ears. And no one had ever taken the time. No one had shown him these nuances and the things that I teach. And so that's what really made the big difference.
So he was really working on like his business externally,
right?
But he wasn't taking care of what was going
Correct.
on inside of his head.
That's right. Correct.
Wow. Yeah. That's pretty awesome.
And it's very common. It's more common than you might think. Yeah.
There you go. Well, it's interesting how many times, we're looking for all the fixes on the outside of us.
That's right.
And really, we just need to go see a psychiatrist or something like that.
Well, I don't dispense medicine, but I do dispense advice that makes people a lot of money and gets them their life back. And that everybody of course wants more money, right? Yeah. But what good? In fact, this goes to one of the things that I talk about all the time, which is what I call the 4 focus factors. And like when I'm doing a keynote presentation, I'll make it into kind of a game, with my audience members, whether live or virtually, and I'll say, okay, I want you to play a game. All right, we're going to play a game right now. Imagine I give you $1 million. I'm going to give you $1 million right now. Sound good? And they're like, well, yeah, of course it sounds good. I said, no, there's just one catch. And they go, well, what's the catch? I say, well, I'm going to give you $1 million, but you have no time to enjoy it. Right. You're working all the time. You have no time at all. You can't see your family or friends. And all right. So no time at all. Does that sound good? You're like, well, not great. I mean, it's not really that good. I said, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll give you $1 million, but you have to be sad, miserable, depressed, and angry all the time. Sound good? No, that doesn't sound very good, right? Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll give you $1 million, but you have no relationships, no family, no friends, and you have nobody that you can actually share all this money with. Sound good? No, none of that sounds any good, right? So that's how I show people, through a fun exercise that my 7-figure expert formula really covers those 4 areas. I call them the 4 focus factors: time, energy, relationships, and money. So the point is, we need to have a balance of all 4 in order to have a healthy life and a happy, rich life, really.
Because if you don't have a balance, that can make all the difference. A lot of call-outs coming here. Important topic, Chris Voss. Thanks, Sarah. We certainly appreciate that. What's the book about? Someone's calling in. Someone's in the mid-show, I guess.
Here it is right here. I'll show it to you. So 7figureexpertbook.com. There it is, 7figureexpertbook.com. Right there.
There you go. Give it that.
And the book, again, I'll just reiterate. The book is free. We just ask you to cover the shipping. So 7figureexpertbook.com. There you go.
Free. I mean, it doesn't get much cheaper than that. So there you go. In your books and coaching programs, you talk about being famous for making clients making more in 12 weeks than they made in the previous 12 months. How is that possible? I know how it's possible, but I know how is that possible? I mean, I'm sure the average person is out there going, how can I make what I make in a year in 12 weeks?
Well, I mean, it really goes back to what I was saying a moment ago, which is we focus on the inner game and the outer game. So if you think about building your business like building a house, okay, so here's what most entrepreneurs are doing. They know they want a new house, right? Or, they want their dream home, okay? So what they do is they get up in the morning and they say, man, I really want my dream home, and all the hustle and grinders say, I got to work hard and hustle and grind. And so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab a bunch of boards and slap them together, and a house is going to show up magically. And they're like, it's like, how's that working for you? So this is the point. You're working really hard. I know that. I know you're working hard, but that's the problem. I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't work hard. I'm saying there's a difference between working hard and working smart, right? Having systems, formulas, strategies, fill in the blank, plug and play, right? And that's what most entrepreneurs don't have. They don't have a plan. I mean, imagine if you tried to build a house without a blueprint. That's going to be pretty rough. And that's what most entrepreneurs are doing. So just giving you the right plan, right? And then you also need the right tools, right? If you're going to build a house, you need the right tools, right? Most entrepreneurs are basically trying to build a house by hitting a hammer or, hitting the nail with their head, and no wonder they got a headache and they're pretty frustrated. So we got to give you the right tools. Ironically, and just as a little side note, when I started in 1997, in my 300 square foot basement apartment with $800 and a book on HTML, I mean, we had no tools, right? If you remember being online in the 90s, right? Right, remember that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could have a picture that was maybe 3x5 pixels. And of course, video was out of the question, right? And there was no Facebook, YouTube, Google, and, any of that stuff. So, but the point is that, we had basically, it was like trying to build a house with a rock and some sticks, right? So the tools are, of course, very rudimentary compared to what we have today. But ironically, right now we have too many tools, right? So that's why most entrepreneurs are overwhelmed. So we went from having not enough tools to too many tools, and most people are on overwhelm. So we have to find that middle ground, and that's one of the things that we do is we help people really clear the clutter, whether it's one-on-one coaching or group coaching or whatever it might be. Clear the clutter and say, look, here's the things, here's the plan, here's the tools, and then the third thing you have to have is the right support. You really got to have the right support, and that really comes down to someone believing in you, sometimes even when you don't believe in yourself. I'll give you a quick example. We have a program called the 12-Week Breakthrough, which is one way we help people make more than 12 weeks than the previous 12 months, hence the name. And one of my clients that I was working with recently, her name is Catherine. She's an entrepreneur from Pennsylvania. And she, came to me, and she was in a very dark place. Now, that's her words, not mine. She said told me she was in a very dark place, and she tried lots of, gurus and whatever, and, nothing really worked. And so, she joined the program. And in week 5, she sent me an email. And she said, Noah, I just raised $185,000 in one day today.
Holy crap.
Because of what you taught me. And she said, now, because you believed in me, now I believe in me. And I never believed in me before. I'm like, wow, $185,000 one day. Not too bad.
That is pretty good. Yeah. I usually take 2 days to do that.
Yeah.
That's pretty good one day.
Take a nap in there.
Yeah. But it's mostly international illegal arms sales.
Yeah. Well,
won't tell anyone. Yeah. Okay. I think someone ringing the doorbell. It might be the FBI. So there you go. Let's see. Now you talk about the habits of unconscious habits of highly successful people. Clearly, I have no conscious habits because I can't even see that right. But you talk about that in the book. Explain to us what that is, and I guess some of us don't have those unconscious habits going on.
Well, whenever we humans want to master a new habit, right, we always go through 4 stages or levels of competency, right? The first stage is unconscious incompetence. That means you don't know you don't know. The second stage is conscious incompetence. That means you don't know. The third stage is conscious competence, which is you know. And then the final stage is unconscious competence, which is you do without thinking. Right. So like in my keynote presentations, like if I'm presenting to a company or a team or organization, I'll use the example of driving a car. Right. So probably everyone listening to this program right now knows how to drive a car. But did you know that you actually had to go through those 4 stages or 4 levels in order to drive a car? Right. This habit called driving a car. First, you didn't know how to drive a car. Right. Nobody comes out of the womb and says, hey, where's my car? Right. I mean, you don't know. Then you get to a certain level or point, age, and you're like, dang, I really want to get away from my parents, and all I have is a bicycle. I can't get far enough away from my parents on a bike, so I need to learn how to drive a car, but gosh darn it, I don't know how to drive a car, right? So now you don't know. Then, of course, you take driver's ed, you learn how to drive a car, and if you can remember, and I certainly remember, back when I took driver's ed, I mean, we had like a Buick that was like about a city block long, it was one of these huge monsters, and it was like, you got all these things coming at you, your brain's going nuts. If we would have actually analyzed your brain, we would have seen your brain was actually just going crazy, basically, doing all these new inputs, right? But of course, now today, for most people watching this program, you're doing this habit that at first was really hard, and now you're literally doing it without thinking. In fact, you're doing or thinking of 27 other things, but you're not thinking about that habit, right? So of course, there's dozens or maybe even hundreds of habits that we do every day that actually fall in those categories. So what I realized 26 years ago, and this is another thing that makes my coaching different, is that highly successful people, I call them the 1%ers, are doing habits unconsciously. I call them the power habits of unconsciously successful people. Now, that's a mouthful, but basically it's very simple. It means that these highly successful people, the 1%ers, are doing things unconsciously that they don't even know they're doing, number one, and therefore, number 2, they can never teach you, right? If you don't know you're doing something, how can you possibly teach how to do it? The answer is you can't. And that's why so many people have spent all this money on all the gurus and everything, and they're still hitting that income ceiling, like the examples I gave you, because, they're telling things that aren't exactly wrong, but they're also not very helpful, right? Yeah. Like set your goals, think positive, you can do it. Well, no kidding, right? We've heard that a million times. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, imagine if you're driving in your car, using the car analogy again. Imagine if you're driving in your car and all of a sudden you're like, and you're in an unfamiliar place and you're like, I don't know where I am right now. And you look at your phone, you're like, oh, shoot, I lost my service. I can't get my GPS. Like, oh, shoot, I don't know where I am. So you see a person on the side of the road and you pull over and put down your window and you say, excuse me, can you tell me where I am? And they say, yeah, you're in a car. Okay, now what they said wasn't wrong, but it also really didn't help. And that's pretty much what the gurus do. So anyway, we want to go to someone like me who has actually understood how these highly successful people are doing things that they don't even know they're doing, and therefore can never teach us.
And sometimes it's hard to understand. Like I've asked CEOs, like, what sort of leadership style do you have? I don't know. And they don't really know. And
they don't know. They're unconscious.
Yeah, and there's a lot of authors that sit down and break them down. You know, I've read a lot of great Tom Peters books, and about half the time he's made me money, and about the other time he's about bankrupt me, because they're trying to unpeel or unwind,
that's right,
or reverse engineer how some people are successful. And sometimes, they're great people, but sometimes there's market forces, or you're just born in the 80s or something, and things like that. But usually most people have a toolbox that they're using, sometimes subconsciously, sometimes unconsciously, like you talk about. I know as a CEO, I always have one. Sometimes I have to remember, like, what is my toolbox? It's saying shit's not working. There's something I always do. What is it? Oh yeah, I do this.
That's right.
And so it's really important to have that. You talk about too, with your program, it helps people prioritize their time and focus on activities that will generate the most income. Now, is that binge watching Netflix on the couch? Is that what that is?
Usually not. No. In fact, ironically, I'm glad you brought that up, because that is one of the things that I help people overcome, which is this wonderful habit called procrastination, right? And that is a very common thing, right? I think we all know that. And so the point is that, why is procrastination not a very good habit to have? And why won't it help you to, break through your income ceiling? In fact, procrastination, I argue, is one of the habits that's keeping you down, in your income ceiling, keeping you stuck, right?
Yeah.
And the reason for that is very simple, is that, the human brain is wired for safety, right? We humans want two basic things. We want safety and we want success. Again, I'm oversimplifying, but it's pretty accurate, right? So the point is that, we want to be safe. Well, what does safe mean? Safe means you don't ever do anything different. If you don't do anything different, then you're going to have what you have right now. Sounds great, right? It's because your brain's like, yeah, that sounds good. Meanwhile, your bank account's going, no, that does not sound good, right? But see, your brain doesn't care. I'm talking about the ancient brain that's often called the lizard brain, right? The little pea brain that we all have back there, that developed millions of years ago. And which is fight, flight, or freeze, right? That's basically what it does. And it's designed to keep you not dead. That's its job, is to make sure you're not dead, right? So basically, well, wait a minute. If I'm going to keep you not dead, and you're going over after something you're afraid of, well, wait a minute, you could die, right? What if there's a saber-toothed tiger in the bushes over there?
Yeah.
Now, you see what I mean? All this, developed thousands and thousands of years ago. But of course, there's not too many saber-toothed tigers running around today. But nevertheless, that ancient fear is still in there and holding so many people back. Okay, that's just one simple example. In fact, I'll give you a quick example from another one of my clients. His name's Tim, and when he came to me, he was actually doing well. He was successful. But he wanted to do something different. He was like, I've been going in this one direction, but I really want to go in this other direction. But he was scared, right? That ancient brain I was just talking about, right? And so, he tried lots of things and nothing really worked. I mean, he was doing okay. But, he came to me and he joined, my coaching program. In 2 years, he built a 7-figure home-based business. Just less than 2 years, 7 figures. Wow. And he literally says, you can go to my website, you can watch his video and hundreds of other case studies. But he literally says, I was holding myself back out of fear. And as a result of coaching with Noah, I built a 7-figure business in less than 2 years, working from home,
That's awesome.
So that's the beauty of it. It doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, the simpler, the better.
There you go. It's interesting how just sometimes it's like a safe, and you just need to dial it just a little bit. Right. And sometimes you're technically on it. You just got to turn the dial a little bit more, fine tune it, and get that formula right. And it's amazing how sometimes you just wake up and you're like, holy shit, I've been there the whole time. I just need to turn that dial just a little bit more and tweak it in. And then you find that sweet spot, and then the lights go on and you're like, holy shit. Yeah, but
sometimes you need an outer perspective, someone, because you can't read the bottle from inside the bottle, right? You need someone on the outside going, okay, here's you might try this, and it makes it a lot easier.
That's what my vodka always says to me. You can't read the bottle from inside the bottle. I don't know.
There you go.
I don't know where that joke works, but it works somewhere. So, not all of them work on the Chris Voss Show, folks. So you're called the father of AFFORMATIONS. There's an O in there.
Yep.
Tell us what that's about and why is that different than AFFORMATIONS?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is one of the things that I discovered many years ago. This is my book of AFFORMATIONS. I've written 24 books. I won't hold them all up, I promise. But anyway, this is my book of AFFORMATIONS, and it's spelled AFFORMATIONS. And you can go to AFFORMATIONS.com with the O, AFFORMATIONS.com, and learn more about my AFFORMATIONS method. But basically, that's one of the things that I discovered 26 years ago. In fact, it was in the shower. I call it the shower that changed everything, because not only did it change my life, it's changed over 3 million lives as a result of people hiring me and studying my work over these many years. But basically, as we all know, an affirmation, right, the old way, is a statement of something you want to be true. Like, I'm rich, and your brain goes, no, you're not, right? And so what I discovered is that the brain has an embedded presupposition factor. And that is just a fancy way of saying when you ask a question, your brain searches for the answer. So instead of saying a statement like, I am happy, I am rich, I'm successful, your brain goes, no, you're not, right? You ask a question. So you would ask an empowering question like, why am I so happy? Why am I always in the right place at the right time? Why do the right people get attracted to me right now so that I can accomplish my goals 10 times faster? These are examples. I give you hundreds and hundreds of examples in my books and in my online programs, my AFFORMATIONS. We call it the AFFORMATIONS Advantage. You can see that again at AFFORMATIONS.com. But basically, that is the distinction. That's one of the distinctions that, people absolutely love, and they go nuts because why? It works. I could give you, hundreds of stories of people who have made more money and lost weight, found love. There was one story of one of my clients was in Germany, and he and his wife were just about to get a divorce. In fact, they had the divorce papers on the desk ready to be signed. You can't get any closer to a divorce than the papers are ready, right? And he actually heard me on a program. He got my AFFORMATIONS program. He shared it with his wife. They tore up their divorce papers, and now they're madly in love and best friends again. That's just one incredible example, but we have so many. So AFFORMATIONS is, in fact, one of the power habits that I was talking about a moment ago, the unconscious habits that highly successful people are doing that they don't even know they're doing and therefore can't teach you. So that's one of the ways that we help to really level the playing field.
There you go. You came with that in the shower, huh?
I did. The shower that changed everything.
Note to self, order the same soap Noah uses. Is it that Irish Spring or something?
Something like that. Yeah, I think it was Old Spice. Old Spice. Yeah.
Old Spice. Boy, we're old, aren't we? All these references and jokes. So I like this because people they try and manifest what they want.
That's right.
They try doing that thing where they have a vision board and they're always like, hey, if I think it'll make it happen.
That's right.
And then a lot of times it doesn't happen. In fact, it seems a lot more than usual. But I like this AFFORMATIONS because it's kind of like it's the visual thing that we've had Olympic coaches on. Right. We've had people on that in the military that teach leadership and confidence. Yep. And it's that forethinking or putting it in your mind to think about what you would be in that moment.
Correct.
And by doing that, your brain replicates that environment.
That's right.
And it goes, okay, we're already here. So we've got to fill in all the blanks. And
that's right.
All that good stuff. And that makes complete sense, actually.
It is very powerful and stunningly simple and incredibly effective. Yes, you're absolutely right. We have Olympic athletes. We have, NFL players, Major League Baseball players, hockey players using my AFFORMATIONS method. And we've had Stanley Cup winners, Super Bowl winners, and on and on and on. So it is incredibly powerful and yet stunningly simple.
There you go. You had one thing I thought was really cool. You have a lot of things that are cool. Let's put it that way. But this one's kind of stood out. You talk about head trash.
Yeah.
Now, that was kind of rude to say about me, but no, I'm just kidding. What do you call head trash is the number one reason why so many people feel stuck? I thought that was an interesting term.
Absolutely. You could make the argument. I've written 24 books here on basically this one subject, which is how to take out your head trash. So if you think about, for everyone listening and watching the program, think about your goals, right? What is it you want to achieve over the next 12 months, right? People say, well, no, I want to make more money. I want to lose weight. I want to be happy. I want, whatever it is. And again, not just money, but, your life and fulfillment and so forth. So, we all have those goals, right? Things you want to achieve. But then here's what happens for most people. For most people, the very next thought after they say, well, I want this and I want that is, yeah, but I probably can't do it. And then it goes even further. It goes, and I can't do it because ... And then you just fill in the blank. And see, whatever comes after the word because is your head trash. That's the thing that you believe. And ironically, the thing that you will defend to the death. Because what's amazing is, and this goes back to something I was saying earlier, we want to be safe. And so when you're going after your goals, you're going to get to that place where, and this is something that I've been sharing with my clients for many years, everything you desire is on the other side of fear. And that just makes perfect sense when you think about it, because if I already had it, I wouldn't be afraid of it. But because I'm going after it, I'm scared. Now, you could be afraid of success. You could be afraid of failure. You could be afraid of both, right? And so that's the point, is that whatever you desire is on the other side of fear. Therefore, that's the head trash that's keeping you stuck. I'll give you a quick example of this. I was talking with one of my clients. His name's Charles. And I ask every one of my clients, whether one-on-one or group coaching, I ask them this question: how much do you think your head trash is going to cost you over the next 12 months? In other words, if we don't fix this one problem, and ironically, this is the one problem that's causing all your other problems. If we don't fix this one problem, how much do you think you're going to miss out on? How much do you think it's going to cost you? Without batting an eye, he said $1 million. Noah, this is easily going to cost me $1 million if I don't take up my head trash, if I don't get this one problem fixed. I said, first of all, number one, I hear that every day. Every day I talk to people who say, Noah, my head trash has cost me $10,000, $50,000, $100,000 a month, or, and more. That's 6-7 figures a year. That's a lot of money, right?
It's a lot of trash.
That you're losing out on.
Yeah.
Right. And so I said, that's number one. Number two, I said, I'll tell you what, just give me 10% of that $1 million and I will find you that $1 million in the next 12 months. In other words, if you give me $1 and I give you $10 back, is that a good deal? He goes, yeah. That's a good deal. So he did that. He paid me $100K, right? That's 10% of $1 million, right? Mm-hmm. And so I coached him one-on-one for 12 months. Well, as it turned out, I didn't find him $1 million in the next 12 months. Instead, I found him $1.8 million in just 10 months.
Wow.
So he gave me $1 and I gave him $18 back. Is that a good deal? Nope, that's a great deal.
That's a good
right?
deal.
And he actually sent me an email recently. He said, Noah, guess where I am? I'm on a 7-week vacation with my wife. We just bought a new RV with all this money we've got. And I'm taking 7 weeks off. I've never been able to do this before. And so because, I installed your systems and got rid of my head trash, not only am I making more money than I've ever had, I have more time than I've ever had before.
That is awesome, man. That is awesome. Sarah chiming in here. This is kind of interesting. We were talking about fear and stuff. Pride can definitely lead to a lack of progress defining our education need as a rocket fuel. I think pride is kind of something behind fear, though, right? Isn't that built on fear, pride? You're afraid.
Well, I mean, pride can be manifested in a lot of different ways, right? Yeah. And so the pride could be, for example, the person says, well, listen, this is how I've always done it, so I'm going to keep doing it. I go, oh, great. Knock yourself out, Hey, if you're happy working so far, change, right? So that could be one form of pride. But, again, that's just one example. So the point is the person would need to look and say, am I happy with my results? If I'm happy, then why do anything different? If you're not happy, we know the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So if you want to be not insane, you might want to try something different. And you might want to get an outside pair of eyes on your issue. That's why, and I don't know if we mentioned this already, but if you go to breakthroughwithnoah.com, you can actually watch an 11-minute video that I did about how much your head trash is probably costing you right now. And you can also book a complimentary breakthrough consultation because you're watching this program. You can do all of that at breakthroughwithnoah.com. Easy to remember, breakthroughwithnoah.com.
There you go. We'll have all the links on the Chris Voss Show.
Awesome.
This has been pretty good. This has been pretty awesome to have you on. Thank you very much, Noah. Give us your final thoughts as we go out, please.
I guess what I would say is, make sure that no matter what it is you want to do, number one, make sure whatever you do, don't listen to your head trash, right? Because your head trash is the bully in your head. Don't let the bully in your head boss you around anymore. Don't take it. Because what does a bully do? A bully, takes your lunch money and tells you you're no good or whatever a bully does. You want to punch that bully in the face. Now the bully's in your head. So, you don't want to punch yourself in the face, but we do want to not listen to it. Don't let that bully boss you around anymore. So make sure whatever you do, make sure you get the right plan, the right tools, and you get the right support so that you can reach your goals up to 10 times faster.
There you go. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. Run us through the .coms real quickly here, Noah.
Yeah, absolutely. So the book, sevenfigureexpertbook.com. The book is free. Just cover the shipping, sevenfigureexpertbook.com, and breakthroughwithnoah.com. Very easy to remember. Breakthrough with Noah. I'm known as the Breakthrough Coach too. So breakthroughwithnoah.com. Watch that video, book a breakthrough consultation, and just my main website, noahstjohn.com.
There you go. Thank you very much, Noah, for coming on. This has been fun and very informative. And now I'm going to think about AFFORMATIONS as opposed to AFFIRMATIONS. Did anybody ever come up to you and, when you're book signing or something, say, hey, spell this wrong here, eh?
Oh, all the time. Well, not as much anymore. At the beginning, they used to, but now they get it, and they even fix their spell check because when you spell AFFORMATIONS, you gotta do it. But yes, and of course, I mentioned that. Yeah. Go to AFFORMATIONS.com. You can learn more about that.
There you go. You always got those grammar Nazis that are running around.
I know, right? And I go, check it out.
Yeah,
check it out.
There you go. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Noah. Thanks so much for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, YouTube.com/Chris Voss, and Chris Voss1 on TikTok. Thanks for being here. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys next time. And that should have us out, man.